Hello, hello, and welcome to Coming Home with Mama T. I'm your host, Tiara, aka Mama T. And on this podcast, we explore the journey of creating the life of our desires through mastering manifestation, maintaining a positive mindset, and living luxuriously. And today we have a very special guest. We have Gina Oliver, who I would say lives very luxuriously. And I'm excited to dive in and share her story. And so, with that, Gina, can you please introduce yourself and tell our audience what you do?
Yeah, I love your little jingle at the beginning. I was just listening to your episodes and I have it like stuck in my head.
I love it. That makes me so happy.
So I'm Gina Oliver. I'm co-founder of Wave Enterprise Co. We are a boutique and location independent podcast and social media management studio for female-owned wellness brands. And currently we're in Gozo, Malta. Just moved here a couple of weeks ago, getting settled in. And so essentially what we do is help podcasters, especially women, to help their podcast sound professional and really elevate their message and then share it on social media.
I love that. So, how did you get into this realm and in this management space?
Yeah, so it starts back when I was a third grade teacher. I taught third grade for 4 years in Atlanta, and I went through a space where I was just burnt out and I just couldn't see myself doing it for like 30 more years down the line. Like I had gray hairs. I was like, okay, something needs to change. And I came home one day and just told my husband, like, we need to move. And we ended up moving to the Philippines. We picked the Philippines because it was the farthest place from home. No, it was mostly because they speak English, and we thought that would be a great kind of point to start with. So it wasn't too complicated culturally. And we wanted to go there also because they have over 7,000 beautiful islands there. And of course, we wanted to be somewhere warm. And yeah, so we landed there. And before we had gone, I had, a job lined up. I was teaching English remotely to children in China. And it so happened where we were staying in Manila, the capital, and the Wi-Fi was really, really bad and not stable enough to continue teaching online. So I kind of had a quarter life crisis moment. And I'm like, okay, what am I going to do now? I only know teaching. I only know this is what I got into debt for. And my husband had already founded our business. It started as a record label in Atlanta. And he was like, well, we need help with our social presence. Why don't you build our website? Why don't you help with social media? And that's just where it started. And from there, it kind of expanded.
I love that. I love that. So, so interesting. Like, what can you walk us a little bit through that thought process of being able to get yourself to a space where you trusted yourself enough to go ahead and like leave your full-time job and move and go with that intuitive, like, I need to move, so I'm gonna go.
Yeah. Well, I think that, I had always wanted to study abroad when I was in college, and it didn't happen just because credits didn't line up and that sort of thing. But I always really loved traveling, and I'm just super curious about different cultures. And I, heard people going backpacking in Europe and that sort of thing. And I wanted to do something completely different. And I never heard anyone, at least in my network, talk about the Philippines or go to the Philippines. And I was like, oh, I want to do this. And so we started planning a year in advance. So it took us a whole year, and that gave us the space to plan everything out. It wasn't abrupt or anything. And so we went through a process of giving all of our things away, basically getting in all of our stuff into 4 suitcases. And I guess just the thought of doing that was so scary, and quitting the job and just going somewhere completely new. It was so scary, but it was so exciting. It was more exciting than scary. And, I just remember like getting super obsessed with it. Like I would watch all these vlogs of people in the Philippines and, living this life and like travel vlogging and that sort of thing. And I was just like visualizing it every day. And I think that that's what helped me to really solidify it and like manifest that.
Oh, I love that. I love it. Visualization, of course. I'm really a big proponent of, okay, like, well, what does it look like for me to do whatever it is that I desire to do? And I find that when I have that space, then I can become the version of me that is experiencing that. And before you know it, it's like fully manifested. So I think that is super, super awesome. So for anyone who might be listening, that's like, okay, well, I want to do the same thing. I want to like quit my job, maybe move out of the country, out of the US or Western spaces and go somewhere else. Like what are some like big tips that you would want to share?
Yeah, I would recommend not like quitting your job and becoming location independent at the same time, because it was definitely hard. And I think that like something that I had to kind of mourn and grieve over was like my teacher identity. And I had to kind of detach from that. So that was like a whole thing. And so I would give the advice of like, if you have a job right now, ask if you can go remote and try that out. See if you like that first. Because if you want to travel, then you need a remote job unless you set up a job, in that country. So I think doing one, the remote job first, and then you can kind of figure out how you're going to travel after that. But something that my husband and I have done before, which I really recommend doing, is a program called Workaway. Have you ever heard of it?
I feel like I've seen it like on Instagram or something like an ad, but I've never actually like looked into it.
Yeah, so it's an exchange sort of program. It's like an app that you sign up for, you make a profile, and it basically gives you the opportunity to go somewhere. It could be, still in the United States, maybe a different state, a different country, wherever you want in the world. And they offer like different things that you can do. So whatever you're looking for, like it was 2 years ago now, we worked at a hostel and we did their social media in Mexico. And it was a great opportunity for us to get a free stay. And then we did their social media for them. And it was super awesome because we had like a built-in community and we got to learn about their culture so quickly with that. And then we were building our skill set too of creating content in person. So I really recommend doing that for anyone who maybe just wants to like dip their toes in.
I love that. I'm kind of gonna go back to mention like the Wi-Fi, right? So, how do you kind of navigate the having internet access in certain places, especially if you are doing business online and you need that source?
Yeah, it's funny you asked that, because there was a time when we were we were living in Guatemala last year, and the internet like went out, and we would have to take a boat all the way across the lake to go get Wi-Fi, and it was wild. So basically, I would recommend to make sure, if like wherever you're staying, if it's an Airbnb or like you do a workaway, really you need to ask them what their Wi-Fi situation is first, and like actually test it, like have them send you screenshot that the Wi-Fi is good. And also just like researching first, like there's different hubs of the world where like more digital nomads go, and usually that's because the Wi-Fi is stable enough to work online. But being location independent has also taught us to have our systems in place, and especially like automations and things like that for whatever the case is, that the Wi-Fi does go out or like there's a blackout or whatever it is, then you know you're good with your business and things are still going to work.
I love that. I love like the idea of like now I'm like I want to research where digital nomads go, and like the biggest thing for me, like yes, I work remotely, but I also kind of have like time constraints of working within like certain time frames for clients. Do you find yourself having to like change your sleeping patterns in order to work with like in different time zones?
Yeah, I would say when we were in the Philippines was the hardest with time zones, because it was like 9 or 10 p.m. we were getting on calls, and at that point I was just done. Like my brain cells were not there. So that was definitely harder. I think that the time zone that we're in now is really good because most of our clients are in the US, so it gives us the chance to wake up and like not have to do any client work, and we can just like slowly come online. And then once 4 p.m. hits for us is when like all the emails start coming in. So yeah.
Well, that's very cool. So you have kind of like your day to like go out, do whatever, enjoy the area, and then in the evenings, that's when you're like doing your work. That's really, really cool.
Yeah.
Um, so for people that might be interested in like starting their own business so that they can be this digital nomad, what recommendations would you have for them to start their business?
I think just saying yes to a lot of things in the beginning, especially if, for example, you're changing completely like your career, um, like I did, like going from teaching to, doing social media. Although there are a lot of transferable skills, it was something that, it took a lot of time to explore and figure out, okay, like there's so many different avenues to go in. And at first I started doing some blogging and like copywriting and that sort of thing. And after a while I was like, okay, I'm not really resonating with this anymore. I don't think this is something I want to pursue, but I wouldn't have known that if I didn't say yes to it in the beginning. So I think giving yourself the space to explore is really important. And especially if, you followed the kind of like, okay, I go to college when I'm 18. I didn't have that much time to even think about what I wanted to do. I just went. And then, you graduate, you need to find a job because you need to live, and you don't have any space. And I think it's really important to find that space and time to explore.
Mhm. I love it. Where have been some of your favorite places that you've traveled?
I would have to say the Philippines was definitely one of them, just because I think it's because we were there the longest. We were there almost 2 years. We got stuck there during the pandemic on an island, which wasn't a bad situation. And we just had such a great community there. And so I think that kind of made it. And I would also say Tunisia, where we were last, was a country that I don't think a lot of people know about, especially like people from the US. But it's so beautiful there, and it's mostly an Arabic country. They have like kind of the Santorini vibe. It's all white buildings and like blue accents. It's so beautiful. And I think that would be definitely up there for me.
I love that. What are some things that you would recommend people research when looking for a location to travel to?
I mean, for us, because we work remotely, and obviously if you are going to be doing this lifestyle, you're probably going to be working remotely as well. So wherever you live is so important. Like we're really big on your environment has to be, creative and like inspiring, and just having the space to nurture you. And I think that's really important. So if you can find that, then I feel like everything else will kind of fall into play. But also what I was saying earlier, like there's certain hubs in the world where there's a lot of digital nomads, and where we're at now is definitely one of them because they have the nomad visa. So like a lot of countries have that now where you can stay longer, which is amazing. So yeah, I think just researching where are people at, like, depending on what you're into, if you like, doing yoga or meditation more, like that might be something to consider as well.
I love that. I heard the word nurture and I was just like, yes. So in doing something like this, because like I feel like, at least for my parents, this would not have been something that's conventional. I know it's becoming more and more of a thing. So how do you deal with anyone that might be not nurturing to this experience, right? They're not supportive of this idea, the naysayers, like you can't do this. Like, how do you kind of deal with that?
Yeah. Oh man. I actually, my parents were not into it at all. They were totally like, what are you doing? Like, you're quitting your job. Like, what, just not into it at all. And I got to the Philippines and actually didn't talk to them for quite some time because I was in this journey of, I guess you could say, finding myself. I know that sounds like cliche, but I was, and I was becoming an entrepreneur, and you can't have people like in your brain telling you to do that. Like, you can't do that. You can't do that. Like, what are you doing? That sort of thing. And I think it's important to distance yourself from those people and also just trust the decision that you're making is the most important decision for you, and it's not for anyone else.
Yes. I love it. It's so important. Like I talk about it all the time where we have to set those boundaries and really connect into the people that are going to uplift what it is that we are working on. And I know it can be hard, especially like if it's family, you're like trying to like, I don't know, for me, I'm like, all right, I have to meet this expectation of being like a good person by like involving my family and whatever. But then on the other side, it's like, but I need this for myself. Right. And this is our life when we have this one life, regardless of what you believe in and like reincarnation or whatever, but like we're living this specific life. So we have to do what we need for ourselves to nurture ourselves and actually get the experience that we're looking for. So that is super
Yeah,
powerful.
yeah, exactly.
I love it. So talk a little bit more about your social media and podcast management business. Like, how do you support, especially, I love that it's also mostly women. So I think that's amazing. So what are the things that you do to support them?
Yeah, so well, we started off first being mostly just social media, and then the pandemic came and everyone was like, I'm going to start a podcast. So we were like, okay, this is perfect positioning because my husband is an audio engineer, music producer, all the things. So we were like, okay, well, we can add podcast editing and management into the mix and find people who have a podcast and they need us to edit it. They need us to take out the dogs barking in the background and the beeping and all the things. And they need us to upload it and then promote it on social media. So we kind of like merged our skills and what we were good at and what we were passionate about together, and kind of just made this thing, this living, breathing thing. And so we help women. I think that it's really important to uplift women, especially in business. And so, yeah, we work mostly with women in the wellness space because this whole, journey of traveling has taught us a lot about just self-development and like, kind of unlearning societal norms. And we've found that people who are helping other people live well are people that we want to work with, and we want to uplift their messages and really help them make a bigger impact.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it so much. Yes, I feel like we are in this space of a weird and interesting time of like so many people are coming to the realization that like I really need to take care of myself. I need to nurture myself and figure it out what it is that I enjoy, because I'm finding there are so many people that are just like I'm in this, like you said, like the went to school at 18 and I didn't really know anything. I just did whatever was going to make me money. And now I'm in my like 30s, 40s, and I'm unhappy. And like, so what do I do to fix it? So it's just like, I feel like wellness is just such a important thing, and finding our own personal wholeness, whatever that looks like for ourselves, so that we can be our best selves and live the best version of our life.
Yeah. And I feel like maybe like our parents' generation, like a little bit older generations, they didn't have that, like this wellness pillar as the staple of their lives, because they were, you know, just going to work, and they were taught by their parents, like, you got to have a job, doesn't matter if you like it or not, like, doesn't matter, you know, you got to have that, and then you got to buy the house and, you know, do all the things, and like not really caring about their whole being, you know. So yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm excited to see how the world shifts over the next like 20 plus years, because I see the more people get focused in on the wholeness of life and living, and making sure that we have a purpose, we have community, we have all these things. I feel like there's going to be a shift in like even like politics, and everything has to kind of shift to match this energy. And I feel like right now it's not there yet, but I'm like, something's going to break, and I'm interested to see how it works, so that we can all kind of live this extraordinary life and experience together, and create a new way of living and being a part of community. And I'm really excited for it.
I love everything that you just said.
Fantastic. Well, is there anything else that you would like to share with our audience today before we hop off?
I think that if you're listening to this right now and you feel lost, or, you know, you feel overwhelmed or whatever, just put your community at the forefront and reach out to somebody, you know, in person or online, and talk to them, you know, tell them that their content inspired you or whatnot. I feel like the community is really the forefront of everything, and it can literally help you live longer if you have a strong community. So I think that's just a little nugget.
Oh, I love that. That's so true. That's if anyone's ever seen the Blue Zones documentary, that's one of the pillars is community.
Yeah. I love that.
So good. And with that being said, reminder, friends, if you're not already a part of the home membership, if that's something that you're looking for, that's what we're building, an online community where we can hold each other accountable for creating the life of our desires. There's group coaching and movement and spiritual rituals and all that good stuff. So invitation to you for anyone that's interested, go ahead and go to www.mamateenergy.com, and you can find that space there. So Gina, where can people find you?
Our website is waveenterprise.co, and you can find us on all the social channels at the same thing, Wave Enterprise Co. And on LinkedIn, also under Gina Oliver.
I love it. Thank you so much for your time and your energy today. Thanks everyone for watching, listening. Remember to like, share, subscribe, and all that jazz. And I'll catch you on the next one.